When was the last time that you gave some feedback and actually got thanked for it? Most of us think that feedback is about fixing behavior, but your team doesn't hate feedback because it's uncomfortable. They hate it because it just feels icky. It feels unsafe, right? So today, we're going to flip that script because you can create a culture where feedback, it really does feel like fuel, not fire. You won't just improve performance, but you're going to build trust, you're going to build retention, and you're going to build loyalty. So let's talk about why your team hates feedback, and really more importantly, how you're going to fix it. This is the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast, and I am your host, John Espinosa. I help business owners hire and retain top talent, and we do that through building high-performance teams. The content we're going to deliver today is all about feedback and really why people in your team hate feedback. Even the word feedback puts people like in a fight mode, right? Fight, flight mode. Put them back on their heels. Hey, I got some feedback for you, John. Whoa, what's going on here? What did I do? That's the first thing that people think about. That's the first thing I thought about when I hear the word feedback, especially from my boss or, an executive in the organization. It's like, okay, and I'm just trying to go through all the things mentally in my brain to figure out, where did I mess up, right? But that's not really what feedback needs to be. And in today's episode, we're going to dig into how to really flip that script of giving feedback and making it part of our cultures. So you're going to want to listen all the way. This is going to be a short, going to get down to the point, going to give you some actionable steps like we always do. And again, if you're out and about, unable to take notes, I would always encourage you to take notes. Get a pen, get a piece of paper or your notepad. But if not, click on the link below and we're going to have show notes delivered right to your inbox, right? Sorry, it's early morning here. I just got back from a run and I am full still of endorphins. So we're going to hit this thing running today. Why feedback isn't working. One of the reasons why I walk into organizations or teams and it isn't working because it's one-sided. Even and this is something that I don't think, unless it's a really, really good organization, we don't coach and mentor our leaders and maybe the business owners out there. Maybe they've been coached and mentored throughout their career before they started a business or you're entrepreneurs, but it's not something that comes naturally. It's kind of like interviewing, right? Unless you go and apply for a job and, often you don't get practice interviewing. And feedback is that same thing. We normally get feedback sessions around those annual timeframes, like whenever performance reviews come up. Hopefully you're doing performance reviews within your organizations, within your businesses, but don't let that be the only time that you give feedback. And we're going to talk about some reasons and some ways that we can integrate feedback sessions where it's normalized. It's not just that one time a year where you're sitting there hoping that you're going to get a bonus or hoping that you're going to get, a raise for the next year. So it doesn't need to be one-sided though. And one thing I love my dad. He's one of my greatest mentors. Whenever he used to sit us all down, I can remember in the living room, I could vividly remember this because there was a lot of emotion tied to it, right? That's why we can remember these things way, way back. And we would sit on the couch and he'd go, I need to talk to everybody. And we would number his lectures, but he was giving us feedback. Either something went wrong, we were fighting with each other, I had two other siblings, or something was just on his mind. But it felt like a lecture. It was one-way communication. He was talking, not a lot of questioning, and it was really just a relay of information. But for him, that was his feedback session. So we need to understand that whenever we're giving feedback, it needs to be a two-way conversation, because if not, it's going to feel like you're getting lectured to. And nobody likes to get lectured to. So when you talk to your team, does it feel like you're talking at them or with them? And I think that's a good differentiator, something that in my mind, when I'm in a team meeting and I'm providing some feedback to the team or individual even setting, am I talking at that person? Even right now, it's hard for me. It was hard. Now it's gotten a little bit easier, but it was hard for me to talk to the camera because I felt like I was talking at somebody instead of with them. But I've tried to integrate ways where I'm talking with you because I've been there. I can relate. I've been on both sides of that conversation. The giver of feedback and the receiver of feedback. And the really, really good sessions, these are the tips and tricks that I'm going to share with you today. So I got a good, interesting stat, and this was just off of Google. Gallup, I believe, was the source, but 70% of employees feel that feedback is about correction. 70%. So if you have a team of 10, I like easy math, 7 of them, when you are giving them feedback, they feel it's about corrective action. As we mentioned earlier, I automatically start replaying back, okay, what did I do? Did I hand in the report on time? Did I make that sales call? Did I get back, to the spreadsheet, or maybe wrong information, but bad email? We automatically go there. We're going to flip that script. We're going to change that mindset. How do we do that? One, how do we create a feedback session where it's not just one-sided and it doesn't feel like a lecture? Everyone, a quick break in the episode today. Are you struggling to find and keep the right employees? You're not alone. High turnover drains time, money, and morale, leaving us frustrated, overwhelmed, and feeling like we have to settle for less. I understand how tough hiring can be because I've lived it. And with over 21 years of building high-performance teams, I know how to turn hiring challenges into lasting employee success. Through my proven lead framework, we're going to analyze your processes, design a personalized strategy, and implement solutions that create confident and long-term results. Don't let turnover hold you back. Choosing this program is that first step towards a thriving workplace. Enroll today at thejohnespinosa.com and build the team you deserve. Imagine a team that works seamlessly together, or keep facing the same costly cycle of turnover. The choice is yours. Now back to our episode. One of the things that I love to do, and the more curious that I become as a leader, I think at least my teams, the feedback that I've gotten from my teams is they appreciate it. So this is one powerful question here that I ask. Whenever maybe a mistake is made, it's a decision-making mistake, a wrong decision was made, or a decision that didn't benefit the organization. Instead of calling them out and saying, why did you do that? What were you thinking? Here's a question that allows you to kind of open up their mind. One, could you walk me through your thought process on that? Just walk me through it. Help me understand. That's another good question that I like to use, or statement that I like to use. Help me understand your thinking process behind, that decision. And it allows them to really start and walk you through. Now you're walking with, it's a conversation with somebody, and you're not talking at that person. Another application that I've used here is after giving input. So you're in a conversation and you're being curious. You've asked a question similar to the walk me through that process, and now you're providing some type of constructive feedback. After you mention that, it gets kind of eerie, kind of feels weird, silence, right? A great question is, how did that land with you? And then stop talking. Allow them to process. If they're processing emotions, it may take a little bit. If they're a logical thinker, they're trying to figure out how to really relate what you said to the scenario. I'm very logical, so I'm always trying to say, okay, what did they mean when they said this? And, how did that apply? So we start making all these generalizations, and what happens is we build up a story in our brain. So when you ask, how did that land with you? It gives them an opportunity to debrief their thought process. As you were providing that feedback, now they get to walk with you in the feedback process and allow you to clarify, really. I find a lot of times, especially in a feedback session, and you can call it whatever you want to call it back, but whenever you're having a conversation and there's something that has happened, good or bad, because we'll talk about good feedback, that you got to understand they're in that, okay, what's going on here? They're in that kind of fight mode in their brain, not physical fight, but they're trying to rebuttal, find some kind of argument on, or justification on why they did that. So understand that going into the conversation, especially if it's because of poor performance or something happened that you want to fix or you want to change as far as a decision, like I mentioned earlier, or maybe it's a performance issue that has been going on. You've tried to coach and now you got to have that tough conversation. So those two ways are excellent applications into making a feedback session two-way and not just one-sided. Hence, it's not a lecture. You're walking with that individual. But what happens even if you make it a two-way conversation? It can fall flat if we don't have the trust there. So if you're a new business owner, a new entrepreneur, a new leader in your organization, you're still building that trust, right? So here are some things that you can do, or you want to enhance your trust if you already have an existing team. Maybe you have somebody who's new to the team. We're going to talk next about ways that you can build that trust. So when I describe this section, I always think about intent. Your intent matters more than the message. And here's why. Tone and timing. Your tone can communicate a lot of different things, no matter what's coming out of your mouth. So if I have a very stern tone, hey, you did a great job today. That was a good compliment, but like my tone was very stern. They hear the tone before they hear the message. And the reason why your tone and tenor, or really your timing as well, is important is that is going to either degrade trust, lower trust, or build trust. One of the other things that I wrote down this morning and I was thinking on my run was, do I only give feedback when something went wrong or something's not right? And I really had to think about this, and thank goodness that I've programmed this application that we're getting ready to talk about into my daily and weekly practice. But before, the answer was yes. I would only give that feedback when something needed to be corrected. Or during the annual review, that's where I would give positive feedback. But who likes to hear feedback just once a year? I don't know about you out there, Go Be Great community, but for me, I want to know like up to day, up to at least week, how I'm doing on projects, how I'm showing up, that sort of thing. That's just my brain. I don't know if any of you are out there like that, but my brain is constantly like striving, okay, what can I do to enhance this project or this process? Or how can I look at things differently, right? So the question, do you only provide feedback when something's wrong? If it's a yes, these applications are going to help you. So the first one, feed forward sessions. And I like to do these about once a month. I have, of course, my meeting structure with the team is a weekly meeting, individually, one-on-one, 30-minute, a weekly team meeting, and then I have bi-weekly sub-team meetings. And during my one-on-one meetings, I like to do this feed forward session. And one of the things that we focus on during the feed forward session is what future improvement. We don't look back. I'm getting people to move forward. If there was a mistake made or even a success, a win, we always stop, celebrate that win, because now you're ingraining that, all right, you're going to get reward for maybe a risk that you've taken in the organization, putting yourself out there, trying something new, learning a new task or skill. You always want to reward that individual, but now let's feed forward. So what else can I do to help support you? What are some other things that you're interested in doing now that you've accomplished whatever it is that they've checked off, right? So those feed forward sessions are going to build trust, because now what the individual on the other side of the conversation, what they hear is, John really cares about my growth, and they can see their growth within the company. We've talked about that in a previous podcast episode about if somebody doesn't feel as if they're able to grow within your business or company, they may start to look elsewhere, or they may get complacent. And we always want to get people kind of looking forward. So this feed forward sessions, they're going to help you do that. I do them monthly. You can do them as often as you want, quarterly, but at least address future improvement. And then the other thing, and I really dug into this, and this goes back to not only providing feedback when things go wrong, 3-to-1 ratio. A 3-to-1 ratio. So for every piece of reinforcement that I give, that's the one, I give 3 constructive feedback. I give 3 attaboy, attagirl, feedback sessions. 3-to-1. 3 constructive to 1 reinforcement. And what I found is it has helped make that part of the culture, which we're going to talk about next, to where it becomes a conversation, not an event. And one thing, once we establish trust, and feedback is a way to help us do that, now we're going to make it part of a culture. And this last topic we're going to talk about is I have strived in my organizations and my teams and businesses to make feedback a habit, not just an event. not just that one time a year performance feedback or that quarterly meeting that we have a feedback, right? To check all the numbers or your quarterly program review, whatever that feedback looks like. Don't make it just an event. Make it a habit. When we normalize feedback, we make it part of the everyday conversation. And now what happens is it is part of our culture. So in this kind of model of think, do, be, when we talked about, okay, we got to think about feedback as a two-way conversation, then we got to behave in a way to where our intent matters more than the message. So how are we, what's our tone? What's the timing of the feedback? When are we giving it? Now I want to talk about how to make it part of our being, and that's our culture. So here, if we create a habit out of feedback, now we don't wait for those annual reviews. We make it part of our conversation. And I got a couple things here that I was able to integrate and help some other people in their businesses, and they have found great success. So, feedback, when we start looking at feedback as a gift and not a surprise, that's when you know you're on the right track. And a couple ways to do that. Weekly, and this can happen like a weekly, just 5-minute conversation. What's one thing that you worked this week, that worked this week? So what's one thing that worked for you this week? That's a better way of saying it. And then just sit back and allow them to answer that question. It gives you the opportunity to understand what's working. And also, if there's a roadblock, a challenge that they're, needing some coaching on, it gives you that opportunity to coach on that. Let them ask first or ask for permission. Hey, when you just talked about, that project and maybe having a difficult stakeholder in the project that you couldn't get deliverables from, or maybe wasn't replying in a timely manner, would you like some advice on dealing with, that individual? That's asking for permission. Yes or no. They say, no, I got it. Sending emails, and then they'll walk you through their process. Again, another way to create and walk with, not talk at somebody, but that allows just a weekly kind of what's working for you. And then a monthly one that you could do is, what's one thing that I can do better for you? And you can do this in an individual, or you can do this in a team environment. What's one thing is I, the business owner, entrepreneur, the leader, can do better for the team? And what occurs, what I've seen, when this really starts to become a culture, when we view feedback as a gift, not just, a surprise, they begin to ask each other, what's one thing I can do better for you? What's one thing that's working for you this week? And when the team begins to communicate with each other, feedback becomes part of our culture. So again, make feedback normal, and you will see that fear, just of the word, begin to disappear. If you're not subscribed to this channel, click on that subscribe button, totally free. Thank you for listening to the very end. Again, use these applications. Give me some feedback. Come back. Tell me, how are they working? Are they not working? John, are you just totally out of this world? I read every single one of those comments, and I enjoy your comments. It only makes me better. That's my feedback. I believe in you. Go be great. See you on the next episode.